This video is going to take you through creating a model in Blender, unwrapping it, painting it in Substance, and importing it into Unity. It's not going to be one material, it's going to be multiple materials. In Unity, we're going to make one of the materials transparent, the other one opaque. But what we're going to do in Substance is use a single texture set so that while we have two materials in Unity, they're both going to be referencing the same textures. And what we're going to do is in Blender is create two cubes, and each one's going to get a different, actually let's do two planes. Let's just keep it really simple. And each one's going to get a different material. So first thing we got to do is create a plane. I'm just going to put that at 0. So I put the 3D cursor at 0. Let's try again. All right, there's our plane at 0. And let's make another plane. Just right to the right of it. And maybe we'll put it so that both of them are right around 0, kind of equally there. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is UV unwrap these. And the image editor. UV unwrap this guy. It's going to take up the whole space. Switch to the other object, UV unwrap that one. Takes up the whole space. No, that's because these are two separate objects. Right. So let's join these objects together. All right, now we have one object. Now let's edit. UV unwrap them again. There we go. Okay, so let's put a test texture on here just so we can kind of see what these look like. So I'm going to make a new color grid, call it UV checker. Let's make it 2K. No alpha. And then we'll go to texture mode over here. Oh, and we also need to create a material for these guys. So new material, let's call it material 1. And let's go to our node viewer. Node editor. Bring in an image texture. Select that UV checker. And now I don't actually have to connect it here because I'm in texture mode. So anyway, if I go down here, they both have the same resolution. You can see, oops, getting about the same image quality on each one of them. Not about, I'm getting the same image quality on each one of them. Problem figuring out why. Oh, I'm not panning, that's why. So there. That guy, there's that guy. Now in the UV map, if you wanted one of these to be higher resolution than the other one, you can select, go into face select mode here. And let's move this right UV map off to the side for a moment. And take this other UV map and scale it up so we can get higher resolution on it. So you can see I'm getting more red, more texels, more texels, more texels. When I do that, of course, it means there's less for this other map. But let's go ahead and let's do this anyway, just for the sake of illustration. We move this guy back on. Now they're overlapping, so I'm going to shrink this guy down a little bit. But you know what? I don't actually need to position these perfectly because I can just select all of them and then ask Blender to pack them for me using the tools menu. So they have this pack islands that goes ahead and puts it in there for me. You notice they didn't leave any margin, or they left a very small margin, so I can actually go down here and increase that a little bit. And you can see the margin growing. So I think the main reason you want to do that is when you have bitmaps and it's scaling down. If you have a 1 pixel border at the highest resolution or no border at all, then when you bitmap down, they're going to start bleeding into each other. So we'll give it a little bit of a margin here. And now just to look back in the 3D view, you can see the left-hand side has a lot higher resolution than the right-hand side. But that's okay. This is just an example right now. We want to see how this pans out when we get over to Substance Painter. So every material that I have in every material slot I have is going to get exported into Substance Painter as a different texture set. And you export texture sets from Substance Painter into Unity, and they turn into, as it sounds, into texture sets. So if I have two materials in Blender, by the time it gets to Unity, I'm going to have two different sets of textures, two different normals, two different normal maps, two different height maps, two different albedos, two different metallics, two different smoothnesses. And what I want to do here is have, by the time I get to Unity, is have two different materials, yes, because one's going to be transparent, one's not, but I want to have the same texture set. Just pretend for whatever reason you decide that you really need to, this thing you just can optimize it all into one texture set. It's the same mesh, happens to have two different rendered parts, but why not throw it all into one? So I'm going to show you how to do that. And the next thing that we need to do here is we can take this and export it to Unity or export it to Substance as is. And actually, for the sake of this thing, I think we will do that. And so we're going to leave the material how it is here, material one. Going to do an FBX export. Let me make sure I have my, so I got my object selected. Going to do an FBX export to the desktop, and we'll call this 2 quads. All right, now I'm going to go into Substance, create a new project, select that 2 quads mesh. Then the normal map format here, it's set to OpenGL right now. And this only defines the normal map format used when you're importing normal maps into Substance Painter. If you're baking normal maps inside Substance Painter from a high poly mesh, or if you are not using normal maps for input at all, this doesn't matter. The exported normal maps are going to be whatever format you define in your export configuration. So once again, this only defines how normal maps are treated that are imported into Substance. OpenGL having the y-axis of the normal maps in one direction and DirectX in the other. So if you get this wrong, what you'll see is, like, for instance, if you had something that you expected to be raised, it would look lowered. And if you expected it to look lowered, it would look raised. So that would be, like I said, only on the inputs. So that's fine. We're going to do 2K. Hit OK here. So you can see here's our UVs. Here's our 2 quads. Or not our UVs, I should say our UV. You can see I have one material called material 1. And I'm not going to bake anything here. All we're going to do is paint these 2 things. And we're going to paint them with height information and some colors. So I'm just going to do it by hand. There's some other things that I'd like to show you in another video as far as creating ID maps from vertex colors in Blender, things like that. But here we're just going to focus on the material aspect of it. So what I'm going to do is just hand paint the left-hand side one color and the right-hand side another color. And actually, maybe I'll just throw some of these onto it. Now, I'm just going to paint it myself. Okay, so we'll start with, we're going to paint some let's make a layer so we can set some base properties first. So we'll make the whole thing certain roughness. Make it red just so we can tell when we haven't painted things. Certain roughness, no height set on that one. And then what we're going to do on this next one is actually paint some height information and some normal information into it. No, just height information. We're gonna raise it up. So set our height up. Set it all the way up. We're not going to paint any roughness, and we'll raise it up and we'll also color it at the same time. Okay. Let's make our brush a little bigger. So call this raise, R for raised. That's our big R. And then we'll do our, actually I'll put it here so you see, there's our R here. And I call it roughly the same size here. You'll see it's a lot smaller though, because the UV map for this quad takes up less space. So, really I'm going to make one of these transparent, so it kind of doesn't matter. I'm not actually going to use this texture. So what I am going to use is maybe some of the roughness though. So let's put some roughness on here. On another layer. We'll make little bits of it more rough than the other ones. We'll just take a look at that. It's kind of hard to see. So, oop, there it was. There's our roughness channel. So there, I just painted some roughness on there. A little rougher than the rest of the area. Okay, so that's good. That's all we need for now. So I'm going to export these textures now, and I'll make my own configuration for this, and I'll duplicate it from the standard set. We're going to have an albedo. We don't have any transparency. So I'll just call this straight albedo. Specular smoothness, fine. We have a normal map, fine. No height map, or no emission, I should say. We do have a height map, so we'll call this one height. And we'll grab that from, here's my height map. Height right here. So we have normals, height, smoothness is coming from the glossiness channel here, fine. Just converted from roughness. And then specular is coming from here. Not really sure why specular. The normal shader, let's just check on it. It's albedo metallic smoothness, and the smoothness is in the metallic alpha channel by default. Let's just, we don't actually need a metallic channel, so we'll just put it in the albedo alpha channel and save space. So we'll call this one albedo smoothness. Let's get rid of this guy. And then smoothness and glossiness are the same thing, I think. Then, so we got normals, height, and albedo and smoothness. And that should be all we need. Although with my transparent material, no, this should be okay. Okay. So let's export this thing now. So select the one I just made. Now to actually name it something interesting, it's called standard spec copy. Let's just change that to Unity 5 under test. There. Now let's export that onto desktop. Actually into our new Unity project assets. That's where we're going to put it anyway. So export it. Okay. Now we're going to open up Unity. Brings in those materials. We need to change the normal map to a normal map texture type. Let's just take a look at these. So there's our albedo Photoshop. So looking good. It looks somewhat transparent, and that's because we put the roughness channel in the alpha. So if we go and look at, well, supposedly I did. I don't see an alpha channel on here though. Interesting. Must just be, somehow it looks transparent though. Maybe it's like a, I don't know what I'm talking about. Here's roughness. Does not look right. It's missing some of the dots that I put in there on. Let's take a look at substance again. Look at our roughness. See, I'm not seeing the stuff that's in layer 2 here. Interesting. Let's look at material mode and see. Looks like the roughness is, I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but I can see the roughness painted on there. Why isn't it getting exported here though? Why is it not showing up in Photoshop? It sure isn't. Oh, this is a height map. Oh, yeah, my bad. I forgot. The roughness was exported in the albedo's alpha channel. That's where I got screwed up. Okay, so we make this new material. So here's our albedo, and we're going to say the smoothness is in the albedo alpha. Oh, right, but we put the roughness in there. Did I put the roughness in there? Let's double check our export configuration. I needed to put the glossiness in there. Let's just make sure. So in albedo smoothness, I put glossiness. Okay, we're good. It's all good. Now we're gonna put our, so we'll call this the 2 quads material. Put our height in here and our normal here. Okay. So now I need to bring in 2 quads FBX. So I'll drop it in here, drop it in my scene. Not clear why I'm not able to import these quads. Well, let's try this again. So let's select none here. Let's say extract materials. Let's put them here. And then we'll set it up from here. So there's our albedo. Oh, I'm in the game. No wonder. There we go. Go ahead and drop the normal on. And our height map. Okay. And let's check the lighting and see if the roughness map worked like we wanted it to. I think I need to make the smoothness go all the way up. Oh, oh, albedo alpha. There we go. There it is. There it is. Okay, now it's working perfect. So it multiplies the albedo alpha by the smoothness. So if you had it set to 0, then the whole thing ends up being 0. So it's got to be 1 when you're using the source albedo alpha. Right, so now when I move my directional light, you can see definitely, yeah, the roughness is working for sure. Looks good. Then if we go over here to this guy, I think this was the higher resolution one. That looks good too. All right, so the thing we actually want to do though is make one of these be one material and one be another. And so in order to do that, we got to go back to Blender. So we're not going to change what we painted in Substance anymore, but we're going to go back to Blender. I'm going to go to Edit Mode. And we're going to select, we're going to add a new material slot. Call this one Material 2. And we're going to assign that to the left-hand guy. So now we have two materials. If I select this one, you can see on Material 1. This one's Material 2. FBX export again. We'll call this one 2 quads, 2 materials. So we haven't changed our UV maps or anything. And bring that into Blender. Sorry, bring that into Unity. Extract materials. Set these materials up. So you can see we have two materials. Bring 2 quads, 2 materials. Here's 2 quads, 2 materials right beneath it. The shadow on it, so I'll move to the side. Let's put them both the same height so they're not getting in the way of each other. At 0. Yep. Okay, let's finish setting up 2 quads, 2 materials. So got that. Our smoothness is going to be 1. Source albedo alpha. Looks good so far. Normal map. Height map. Cool. Now material 3. Oh, well, one thing that I forgot to do is set our color. Color should be white if you want the colors to come through properly. It's kind of like the smoothness. It's just getting you're multiplying the albedo by this value. So if you don't set it to all white, which is all ones, you're actually going to get a change from how you painted it in Substance. Set those over to white. Okay, so I got our albedo, height map, normal map. Okay, so this looks just like it did before. I just haven't been using 2 materials now. So the interesting thing is, like, if I wanted to make this one transparent on the right, I can now do that. You can see here. Now I'm adjusting this material's properties separately, or the same. I have 2 materials on one mesh, and I'm adjusting their properties differently. That's using the transparent shader. That one's using the opaque shader. Still one texture set though.